a strategic alliance is a relationship between two or more entities. It could be businesses, it could be a not-for-profit working with a business, it could be a government organization working with a not-for-profit. There are many different examples of the who of strategic alliances. But if we look at the why form strategic alliances? If we know that there's a win-win, some of it's pretty obvious, right? What can you get out of a strategic alliance? And some of you may already be involved in strategic alliances. What can you get out of a strategic alliance? What do you envision?
New clients.
New clients? Yeah.
Ideas.
Ideas. Absolutely.
Support.
Support. Yes. It's a lonely world sometimes when you're working and every day in the jungle.
Creativity.
Creativity. Absolutely.
Grow your market.
Sorry?
Grow your market.
Absolutely. Grow your market. What else can you get out of a strategic alliance?
Synergy.
Synergy. Shared resources.
Knowledge.
Money. Yeah. So how does that happen? What does that look like? Is that you could be filling gaps. Remember, we're looking at this is what I've got now. This is what I need. This is what I need. It's what my business needs. So a strategic alliance is an opportunity to fill that gap. Maybe to add value to products and services. I'm going to give you some examples that might be really helpful. You might be able to respond to an opportunity. So maybe you're looking at responding to a request for proposal and you think my company's too small. A strategic alliance might be a way of connecting with a larger company who can compete for a contract and you could be the supplier. So responding to an opportunity, maybe access new markets, new customers, or contribute to the greater community. Let me give you an example. One of my favorite, actually, is from Victoria. And there's a company, I don't know if you've heard of them, they're called Spuds. You ever heard of Spuds? And they deliver organic produce to people's homes. Okay? You got that picture. Now imagine a strategic alliance with a dry cleaning company. What? A dry cleaning company that uses no chemicals. What do those two companies have in common? Somebody said it. Same clients, same target market. People who are eating organic produce and having it delivered to their door are probably not taking their suits where they're going to get chemicals all over them, right? So same target market. So what those two companies did is set up a strategic alliance whereby one company picks up the dry cleaning from the other, and guess what happens at the end of the day? They both end up with more clients. So that's kind of one of those wild and crazy examples. Think about a yacht chartering company that partners with a university. Come on, really, that's a bit of a stretch, right? In continuing education departments, if you've looked at your local university and what they offer in terms of continuing education, what a great opportunity for people to go sailing for the day and plan or map out or navigate their life choices or whatever metaphor could fit that fits within continuing education. So strategic alliances really create opportunities for both entities to be able to come together and both benefit. Is anybody currently involved? Is your company or the business you work for involved in a strategic alliance? Somebody want to just at the back?
Yeah, I'm working with a lot of not-for-profits, helping them find bookkeeping and accounting solutions, and as a result, they're seeing improved reporting, so they're getting some better funding. They're reducing their administration costs, that sort of thing.
Excellent. That's a great example. Yeah, business working with not-for-profit organizations. I've got one right here.
This whole conference, so there's 6 of us behind the scenes that are working. So I'm doing the live streaming video, and we've got Deb, who's been the organizer, and really we've got all sorts of people who've come. So
where are those 6 people? Stand up, those 6 people. How did you find each other?
Social media. We all kind of connected into each other before online.
Yeah, and here you are today.
Yes.
And everybody benefits.
Yes.
What a beautiful example. So Women's Enterprise Center is involved in a number of strategic alliances for physical resources. Our Vancouver office is co-located with Small Business BC. Small Business BC provides all kinds of services, some that we don't, many that we don't, and we provide some services that they don't. The loans end of things, or mentorship. So there's a terrific opportunity for both organizations to come together. And right here in Kelowna, Women's Enterprise Center is co-located with Community Futures. Exact same kinds of opportunities for both organizations. So it takes that competition and turns it into co-opetition, right? New word to work with. It's an opportunity to come together in that way. And our Victoria office, because part of our mandate is to encourage, to work and encourage with women entrepreneurs in the field of technology, is we are co-located with Techtoria, the accelerator program in Victoria. So those are examples. Sandra.
In Kelowna, we're actually also calling CYBF also.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Canada Youth Business Foundation is. We're also co-located with them. Yes. So we've got. When you look at those strategic alliances, what does it look like in terms of the why? But then there's solve a problem. Strength in numbers, working together. You see hotels that pick you up at the airport and it says the Marriott and the Four Seasons and the Sheraton. Well, what a good idea. Those pooling resources is another opportunity in a strategic alliance. I've seen very small companies hire one electrician, right? And then share that electrician amongst them. They're doing interior design, and you need an electrician for one plug on a counter, and the customer can't wait for 3 weeks, right? So if you've got 10 interior designers who have one electrician between them, there's an opportunity to be able to serve the customer better. So there's hundreds and hundreds of examples. But the first step, how do you find them, is a little bit like dating. Now, I have to tell you, I know nothing about dating. I've been with the same man for 42 years. Yeah. And so dating is like, what's that? But I think I have a bit of an understanding. Sometime in another life, is you start by kind of looking around. Who's out there? And who's attractive? And are they single? Are they maybe gainfully employed? And what about shared values? And then you have these intersections where it all comes together and you can see the value of going beyond having a cup of coffee, right? So in a same model with strategic alliances. You don't start by marrying, and signing a partnership agreement with someone whose business might be able to help your business and you can help their business, right? You start with a more gentle, who's out there, getting really curious in a really creative way when you look at, this is what I've got, this is what I need, who might have the exact same customers, or the opposite customers of who I have. So in the States, they have, it's called suds and duds. You can have a beer and wash your clothes at the laundromat at the same time. And I bet there's a lot of dating goes on. Maybe a lot of this. So suds and duds. The large companies do it. Look at Starbucks in the Barnes and Noble and Chapters stores. You go into Chapters now. So you start thinking about what goes together. Pizza and wine. The wine store that's got their ads on the pizza boxes, and the pizza boxes that say, 5% off if you use my next door neighbor who's a wine store. just more and more examples of strategic alliances. But that first step is a little bit like dating. Who's out there? What do they look like? Are they eligible? And then we look at the types of strategic alliances. So there's the cooperative, and an example of that would be, again, I'll give Victoria as an example. Johnson Street is a boutique area of very boutique stores all within one block in Victoria. So they have, at Christmas time, a cooperative venture where they pool all of their advertising dollars into one brochure for walking. So people can walk the tour and pick up tickets for each and gain points and get prizes. And so that's an example of a cooperative strategic alliance. Pooled resources, that's the example of the hotels that share a van, or the private schools that have one bus and pick up kids all over the place and deliver them. Vested interest. This is where two companies come together in a vested interest typically is more at a starting stage. Two companies coming together at the starting stage, not existing, and they're pooling financial resources. And then, and likewise, joint ventures. Joint ventures is a more formalized version of a strategic alliance. So the formality, and there's all of the legal pieces. So a partnership is that fully legalized document that creates the partnership, right? Vested joint ventures are somewhere in between, and then strategic alliances tend to be the more informal. Does that make sense? Okay. So think about who are your partners. Complementers, people who are offering a service similar, or a product that's similar or that complements the pizza and the wine, right? Who has your customers? Who has lots of your customers? Think about that in terms of your business, the organization you work for. Potential competitors. I once asked, because this stuff fascinates me, I can't walk past a weight loss clinic that's got a tailor next door. And saying, you guys really should have a door in between the two of you. But who are your potential competitors that could actually be a collaborator that you could collaborate with? What I'd like you to do now is, at your tables, with those notes that you wrote down, this is what I've got, and this is what I need. Ideally, if we can do it in groups of 3. If you can turn your chairs to groups of 3, because I think our tables are too big and everyone wouldn't get a chance. So groups of 3, put on that super creative, there's a lot of creativity in this room, to tap into that creativity and that synergy, and brainstorm one at a time, what have you got, and what do you need, and what might be a potential strategic alliance for you? Who might be, or what industry, or what might be an idea of how you could and give you 10 minutes.
It's always nice to see the buzz afterwards. Come on over here. We're actually still live right now. So if you take a look at the screen, we're going through Twitter now. So if you want to take a look at if you go to that YouTube channel, I'm actually broadcasting for this one parts of it. Are you going to be around later, right?
For a little bit, yes. I have to fly out tonight.
Okay, because after lunch, probably around 4 to 1, we're going to be doing live stream interviews up at that nice space. So come on over.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I think we have.
Yeah.
I think we have. I think we have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Yes. And you at this weekend.
Yeah, and then we have community teachers that I work with through the Global Transition Consulting, who actually sort of delegated work to the community teachers and trades and those organizations. A lot of them no longer around. It's sad. And I tweeted out your picture already, so I'm not ignoring you. I'm multitasking.
I can see it.
You ready? Are you bringing people back? Okay, just kind of give me a thumbs up. Okay.
It's exclusive and really
But a lot of people are talking about what I think, and it's very hard.
It's hard. Yeah, I mean, creativity. She does. Still like I just gave them a note, 4 more minutes. Wrap up your conversations, ladies. Ladies, if we could wrap it up, please. Thank you. Well, anyone come up with a good idea? Anybody want to share a good idea? Yes, please do.
Well, after 20 years, I've dusted my material off the shelf and I'm getting back into customer service training. Haven't done that. Tuesday night, I launched it. First time I've been on the podium in 20 years. And if that's not difficult and scary enough, I decided I'd have a video too. Just go for it. Just do it. So anyway, now I'm looking for, the avenue in which to deliver it. And she was talking about yachts, and I'm thinking, hey, I was thinking houseboats. It's very difficult for an owner of a company to look at the staff and say, we're going to bring in a customer service trainer. First thing you're going to think of is what the heck is wrong with the way I'm serving the customers. There's a little bit of an indifference there. So if you go to the course and you're not happy, you don't even think you needed the course, you're not listening, you're not learning. So I'm thinking, I got to make it fun. Houseboats. They do corporate days, like some employers take people zip lining or on the houseboat for the day or something like that. So I thought, get an alliance going with the houseboats and make it fun, and we'll have some live entertainment. We'll do a bit of lunch, casual. We'll do some beer, and now we do. I'm there. And my delivery is very entertaining, and so I don't think that they're going to be disgruntled at the employer. Can snuck that in there? We'll get customer service training. I think it'll be a win-win. But it was so uncanny when you said about the yachts, and I'm like, oh my God, because I'm thinking houseboats. And what do we have in common? A customer service guru and a houseboat, corporate clients.
Absolutely. Beautiful example. Wow. It's that, you know, taking it like to that strange place of creativity. And that's what women are so good at. Collaboration and creativity. Strategic alliances are born of collaboration and creativity. How we can all do better and create the community, the business, the organization, the not-for-profit that works for everyone. What a great example. We've got time for one more example. Please.
So I was sitting here talking with Jennifer and Michelle. Michelle is a lumber biologist, and Jennifer runs an organic farm. And part of the work I do as an intuitive business coach is to help people make these collaborations and understand how to take their business in directions they might never have conceived of. So I said to Michelle, you know, it's very interesting what you do. A lot of us need to understand about how do you clean our water, working with our soil. And she said, oh, I said, do you give public talks? Oh, nobody would listen to that. And I said, well, and I said, you know, Jennifer has people who are coming to her farm because they want organic. They want to eat safe food. There's your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The funnier part, sorry, the funnier part is friends.
What a great example. What a great example. Taking that natural. It's amazing what happens when you ask your friends strange questions. Thank you. Thank you for those examples. So the next step is, you know, to have a cup of coffee, right? Not get married yet, but have a cup of coffee and explore. What do we need? And in this handout that's on the table is all of those. What do you need? What do you need to be able to make this work? So some great tools there. Thank you. So the next is, are you ready to be a partner? You know, ask questions about the partnership, yourself, your business, your customers, your goals, those shared values, all those pieces that will create a strategic alliance that's based and has got that solid foundation. Where are we going with this? What are your expectations, right? What are my expectations? How will we know it's working, right? And setting that out in those early stages. That's getting ready for having a partner for a strategic alliance. So both parties, they know you know what you want, what you both want from the alliance. You're both confident in each other's ability to deliver that, so that you're working with a strong alliance, somebody that you have that confidence. You've maybe created a healthy, positive alliance that's maybe based with some values. These are core values and roles. Those clear roles and responsibilities. This is what you'll do. This is what I'll do. This is what it'll look like. And then having some systems in place to be able to monitor how it's moving along. And that you can get out gracefully. Because sometimes, at the end of the day, it might not be working. So if you plan that up front in a strategic alliance, as one of your initial conversations, how about we'll meet seriously in a year, have a glass of wine, and triple check. You're going to meet more often throughout that time, but you have a checkpoint to say, this will be our date to come together and say, should we continue? You know, so you're setting that up as part of your initial steps. Think outside the box. This is me last weekend, thinking inside the box at Science World in Vancouver. Our youngest son lives in Vancouver, and it was a rainy day, and we were visiting, and we said, why don't we go to Science World? You know, like, what a fun thing to do. And my son took this picture and then sent it on to his, you can imagine, my husband, you know, we're still in alliance, even though I do these kinds of things in public places. And so while my husband's rolling his eyes, my son is tweeting it out to his siblings and saying, next time, you take Mom and Dad to Science. Think outside the box. Women's Enterprise Center, these are some resource guides we have free of charge growing your business, taking the leap to entrepreneurship, starting your business. Lots and lots of resources on our website that you can download. Sandra and I have a table outside the hall here at Women's Enterprise Center. Come and talk to us. Sign up for our e-news. If you're looking for a mentor or you would like to be a mentor, we'd love to talk to you. Thank you. Wow, fantastic, Dawn. Thank you so much. A lot of great information, and I'm sure that lots of people will be thinking about what you said for quite a while. You know, by your definition, I guess you could say conservatives and liberals have been dating for a while. And they have formed a strategic alliance. It's now called the BC Liberal Party, and it's pretty strategic because they won the election. We won. They won. So it worked out. So anyway, great thing to apply to business, absolutely. And many of our relationships in life, actually. So Deb asked me to talk a little bit about women in leadership, I guess because that is the theme of the conference. But also, I have been working with the first elected woman leader of our province for the last 3 years. Is this her riding? I'm not sure where I am. It's nearby. This is her territory. So to speak. Anyway, it's really great to be here in Kelowna. And so I only really can share with you some of the insights I've gained in the last 3 years about women in leadership. I'm not an expert. I don't go around speaking to conferences about this. But, you know, women in leadership is kind of a popular topic these days, I think. It started for me with Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook, and she wrote that book, Lean In. I don't know if you've read it, but it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And I really believe that that book sparked a global movement to encourage and foster and, you know, really try to get women into strong leadership positions and for women to start thinking about it. And, you know, now Sheryl has another movement, which I think is really interesting. It's called Ban Bossy. I don't know if you heard about that. Mm-hmm. But what she's trying to say is we should ban the word bossy. And she has a good point, because I think what happens is a young boy is assertive, and people say, oh, he has such good leadership qualities. Isn't that great? But a girl is assertive, and people often say she's so bossy. I wish she wouldn't be like that. And I think what's happening when you use words like that, I think it really does discourage girls from standing up in class and raising their hand and taking a position and being confident and having an opinion. And that's what we want them to do, I think. So I'm kind of on board with her ban bossy whole idea. I think that it's great for us to, I think it's very important to be conscious of the words we use, because words really do matter, labels matter, and I think they define what our thoughts are, and we don't want to be thinking that to be assertive is to be a negative kind of bossy thing. So don't use that word anymore. Another leader who is out there talking a lot, and has been for the last few years, about women and leadership is Hillary Clinton. And I have to say I was very lucky. I had the opportunity to hear her speak a couple of weeks ago in Vancouver. And one of the things that kept coming up over and over, this phrase, was dare to compete. And that really spoke to me. And I thought, what a great, you know, she could tell a whole speech around that one phrase, dare to compete. And I think what she was trying to say was that we have to get outside of our comfort zone. We have to force ourselves, challenge ourselves to get out there, to step up, to do something maybe we aren't entirely comfortable doing, and take a risk and just go for it. And she gave an example of how this phrase had impacted her life, which was really quite substantial. And that was that she was still in the White House, the First Lady, thinking that they were getting ready to leave. And she was pondering, should I run for the Senate in New York? And thinking, you know, maybe there'll be a sign will come to me, and then I'll know what I'm supposed to do.
So while she was going through this, she went to an event in a gymnasium, and it was called Dare to Compete, and it was for young girl athletes. And she walked into the gymnasium, there was a large banner, it said Dare to Compete on it. So she was getting on the stage and getting ready to start speaking when a young woman, young girl athlete, came up to her very bravely and whispered into her ear and said, "Mrs. Clinton, dare to compete. Dare to compete." And she thought, wow, that's the sign. I am supposed to go for it. And she did, and you know, as we know, she was a senator from New York for two terms, and she was Secretary of State for 4 years. And of course, the unspoken thought in everyone's mind when she was telling us that story was, well, will she dare to compete this time? You know, pretty big decision to make, and I think we're all looking forward to when she finally tells us what she's going to do. I think she might, because she is on the lecture circuit now. So we'll see. One of the other things that she's doing, because she has been a great advocate for women in leadership for many, many years, but one of the things that she's doing right now through the Clinton Foundation is working on a project which she calls No Ceilings, which, as you can imagine from the name of that, is all about helping women break through the glass ceiling and participate fully in every aspect of life, once and for all, is what it says on their website. So good for her, great for her. The best thing she could do for us, though, I think, is dare to compete herself. And I certainly hope she does. But it's a great message, I think, for all of us. Because I think as a general rule, women are not really encouraged to take risks. Not in the same way that men are. And I think we have to take risks. Very often, the only way to sort of get to that next level, to find out about what you're made of, to really challenge yourself to grow and expand your ability is to take a risk. And I don't mean that it has to be a risky risk. You know, you can take a calculated risk. And I think that's just not part of our nature necessarily, or maybe just our culture. But I really believe we have to change that, because men take risks, and we have to be out there taking them. That's the way we're going to get ahead. And I look back at my own career, and I think risk really did play an important role at various times. For example, as Dad mentioned, when I first started working in television, and in fact for most of my career, I was the first woman to ever hold almost every single position, unless I was the second. So, and you know, really, I mean, I was a glass breaker, I was a glass ceiling breaker. You know, it just turned out that way, a kind of pioneer, which was very, very exciting. But it was also, you know, scary, and there were times when, you know, I felt very responsible to the younger women coming up behind me. So it was a very heavy responsibility that I felt. And, you know, sometimes, and really it's kind of amazing to me to think that we're talking about a career which is less than 40 years. So in 40 years, we went from no women, none, to now most newsrooms are probably half women or more, actually more, I would say. So there has been a sea change, and that's great news. I think it was hard at first when being the only woman in the room, the only woman reporter. You'd walk into, you know, a labor dispute. There'd be all these big guys, and they'd kind of look at me like, and she's a reporter. Okay. But I found out that they found out that I might have been small, but I could still tell a story that would have just as much impact, and so it was important for them to take me seriously. The reason I got into that business in the first place is I was one person of an entire generation that was completely blown away by the amazing things that Woodward and Bernstein did. I don't know, many of you might be too young to remember, but they were those two reporters from the Washington Post who cover reporters, you know, not covering any big stories or anything, and they ended up bringing down a president. So they were this romantic ideal, and everyone wanted to be a journalist, to be just like them, and I have to admit, I was one of them. And I read every story about Watergate, every book ever written, and it was just kind of my hobby practically, and so I decided to follow them, and I walked into Czech TV in Victoria with my university degree under my arm and no experience, and said, I really want to work here, and this is my plan. I have a 5-year goal. I'm going to host my own show, and it's going to be about women's issues and politics and arts and culture, and that's my 5-year goal. But right now, I just want a job, and I'll do anything. So they said, well, what are we going to do with her? I don't know what they said. They tried to get rid of me, and they couldn't. So finally, after 6 months, they said, okay, all right, you can have that show. And of course I went, what? I didn't mean now. I didn't know I did. But what are you going to do? I mean, and there were people out there who said, well, how could you ever do that job? How did you even get that job? I was like, I have no idea. It was just my idea. And so, okay, here it is. It's kind of a risk. I could be terrible and fall flat on my face, but I might as well try it. I didn't have a lot to lose, and I had a lot that I potentially could gain. And that was how it worked out. And I was pretty terrible in the beginning, without a doubt. But anyway, it all worked out eventually. And that was a pretty big risk. And then there were many, many risks along the way, in terms of doing stories, making decisions about that, anchoring newscasts, making decisions within, every day, daily decisions. But then I guess the next really big decision was when I decided to leave BCTV and go to CTV. And at the time, BCTV was the powerhouse news station. We had a huge audience, which I had helped build. I was very comfortable. I mean, there was really no reason for me to leave. I had a great job. But along came CTV, and they had this little station, and they wanted to get me on board and help them start at the bottom again and create something, build something, which is a lot, very, very exciting. It really is, and I couldn't resist. So yeah, a lot of people said to me, why would you leave the #1 station? I mean, you have everything there. I know, because I want this challenge. I want to try this new thing. I want to see how, how can I expand my ability? And and I have to say it was a great experience, and I totally believe in taking risks like that. And every time, like I said, when I pushed myself to try something new that I just really, wasn't sure I could do it, it almost always turned out well. And you know what? Even when it maybe doesn't work out perfectly, there's always something else to be gained. And everybody says that. Deb said that to me earlier today. Something she had tried to do and it hadn't worked out the way she wanted, but a few months down the road she realized that she had gained other things from that. And so it's a potential way to expand and grow yourself. And I totally think we have to all start taking more risks. And so then another risk that I took that maybe you realize is that once I decided to leave broadcasting, I had always wanted to work in politics because I loved politics, and I knew that Christy Clark was running for the leadership of the Liberal Party, and I thought, this is my chance. It's just an opportunity. It's the right timing for me, so I offered to help her, really not thinking past the 2 months of the campaign, and then she won. And there were people who said to me, this is a big risk for you because you'll be branded and, you'll never be able to be in journalism again. And I knew that, but it was the right thing for me to do. And it did actually work out great, not just for me, I think for the whole province. And then, of course, last May, I mean, no one thought that we would win. And, guess what? We did, and it was a risk, certainly, but I didn't take it in order to win, because truthfully, you cannot change your values or, your commitment just because you might not win. So I wouldn't have changed no matter what. But I do think that in becoming the first woman premier, elected woman premier, that Christy Clark has faced a lot of the things that I faced in the beginning in my career, being the first woman. Again, she walks into meetings all day long, and she's the only woman there. There are lots of annoying things that happen. I mean, people talk about her hair and her clothes, although not too much lately. That seems to have died away. But, you know, that's why Hillary Clinton wears the same black pantsuit every single day, because they couldn't write about her clothes anymore. And then there's, you know, there's stuff that's more serious. I mean, people do question a woman's ability to lead. They certainly have questioned Christy Clark's. I think one of the more interesting things that I have witnessed now, being in government, is something that nobody seems to be talking about, but it's a kind of a quiet revolution that's been taking place, and that is that women are moving into many, many positions of power and authority, and you know, getting much, much closer to equality. And it's not a big deal. Like, no one's making like, oh my God, there's another woman here. Like, it's just happening, and it's happening in our province, and it's happening across the country. As I'm sure you might remember, last year there were 6 women premiers. At that time, 85% of Canada had a woman as their leader. And in our province, we have a woman premier, we have a woman caucus chair, a woman speaker of the House, a woman lieutenant governor. We have the leadership of the party, both women. 1/3 of Clark's cabinet are women, and over 1/3 of the appointments that she has made in the last 3 years have also been women. So all of this, no quotas to fill, no MLAs have to be a woman, and you know, and then a man next time. No affirmative action programs. Just qualified women stepping up, taking a risk, daring to compete. And I think it's amazing. And you know, but having said that, there is a long way to go to get to equality. We only have 26% or 25%, I think, of MPs are women. And if we keep going at that rate, keep electing women at that rate, we will finally reach parity with men in 390 years. So, yeah. And 3 of those women premiers are now replaced with a man. However, you know, we have been making progress, and you know, I think it's just a slow and steady keep going. Interestingly, no woman premier has yet to be re-elected, so that'll be interesting. At least not yet. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Is there sexism or gender bias in Canadian politics? I think there is. I don't think it's as overt and obvious as it used to be, but I think women are, you know, it's just a lot more subtle. Women are not a member of the old boys club, and you know, that's fine, but women, I think, are treated differently by their colleagues, a little bit treated differently by the media. I know that I was just thinking recently when Alison Redford was leaving office, and people said a lot of things about her, like she isn't very nice. Can you imagine them saying that about a man politician? He's not nice. No, I think God is nice, one of the qualifications. And you know, not long ago, Premier Clark was asked on the radio about her reaction to being called a MILF. I won't tell you what that is, but you probably know. It's a sexual term, and it's very, very inappropriate, and I can't imagine a woman being asked that. She was also asked about, you know, can you really have a child and be the premier? But did they ever ask Kevin Falcon, just to pick one, and had a little baby and another little baby coming, and no one ever mentioned that with him. And they asked her about her dating life. Again, it's just kind of not something you would ask a male premier. You know, I think you do have to have very thick skin to be in politics these days. I believe it was former U.S. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt who said, if you're going to be in politics, you need to grow skin as thick as a rhinoceros, which is not very attractive when you think about it. But in a way, to me, I think that's all the more reason that we need to get more women into politics, into positions of leadership, so that we can change the way it works, so that we can influence the way it works. We can make it so that it's more suited to women, not just a man who has a wife who takes care of everything, but you know, to the various needs and different roles that women play in their lives. We should be modifying what we expect from our leaders so that more women can do it. You know, so ultimately, I guess some people say, does it really matter if women get involved in politics or in the political process? And I think it does matter. To me, it matters. And I think it matters because I believe that our government should reflect all the perspectives of its citizens. That we shouldn't just reflect what the males think, we should reflect what women think. And when women, as well as men, are part of the decision making, I really believe we get to better policies and we create better programs. And as a society, I think we benefit when we access the best and brightest minds of more than just half of the population. I think it's important that we include both halves of the population. Women's voices need to be heard to ensure a civil and a caring society. And I do believe that women generally have a different style and of leadership, and Dawn was talking about that, the collaborative nature of it. I do think, I mean, it's a generalization, because women can be and are very tough, but they are more collaborative. This is what I've seen. They're more communicative. They seem to be better team players than men. And one of the characteristics, I think, of Premier Clark that I've seen is where she is very confident and comfortable to appoint very strong people into key positions. She's not threatened by that. They may not agree with her. Say, take, for example, Transportation Minister Todd Stone and the Premier apparently seem to have different views about the transportation referendum. Well, that's okay. You know, she is a confident enough leader that she wants people to have a different point of view and present that. And if they can convince her that it's a better way to do something, then she can change her mind as well. And I think women generally tend to be able to do that more than men. I don't know if it's like less ego involved. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, women are still very tough, but they seem to listen more to other people. And a good example of that was when shortly after the election, Premier Clark invited Jim Sinclair and Tom Sigurdson from the construction unions into her office to talk about the job skills shortage and the training that they needed. It's a huge problem. So she invited them right into her office. Now, just that was like weeks after these two guys had been ripping her to shreds on the campaign trail. And, you know, it was kind of surprising. And even they were like, whoa, we haven't been here, we haven't been invited here in over 10 years. And she said, well, you know, I'm not a sore winner. And she wanted to find out what they, you know, she needed their help. And she was perfectly comfortable going to them and asking them for it. And I just don't think that sort of thing did happen a lot for a long time. Just doesn't happen as much with male leaders. And so I think this style of leadership is different, it's important, it's interesting, we want to have it there. We want, you know, it's just kind of maybe reflects also a new generation of leadership, because I do think leadership is not so autocratic. Younger people are not willing to accept the kind of micromanaging and top-down authority that we used to have in the past. So, my final point today is that if any of you are considering getting involved in politics or anything to do with politics, as a volunteer, as a candidate, as a campaign manager, or just as a very engaged voter, I'm urging you to do that. This is not a partisan statement, but I'm really urging you to get involved, because we need women to get involved, and I really think it's important that you do. We know everyone has something to give, and so I'm urging you to step up to the plate, to challenge yourself, take a risk, dare to compete, because we really need all British Columbians to care about the kind of society and the kind of province that we're creating. And if you would like to find out more about the BC Liberal Party Women's Network, I would love to have you join us this afternoon for a glass of wine. We're actually having a little reception in this very room from 5 to 7. So drop in, have a glass of wine, just share your thoughts about the conference or anything else with us, and just come and meet us. Love to meet you. Janice Muckowicz is the president of the BC Liberal Party Women's Network, and so she and I are traveling around the province talking about what we're doing and basically just engaging with women about the issues that matter to all of us. And because we all have this wonderful place we all care about and love so much, and we all need to make it continue to be great together. Thank you.